Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Happy to be back with you all with another video. Tonight, we're going to start a new series, this time focused on cloud security. I think I'm going to go for the AWS security specialization, or specialty as it's called, as my next challenge. I think that's the area that would be most valuable to, study and get some, I don't want to say the word recognition, but some, validation of my experience with AWS. Recently joined a new team at work, and pretty much everything is in AWS, as it was with my previous several teams, different companies or projects I've been on. So very popular, very common platform for cloud applications and infrastructure and all of that. I'm sure everybody is familiar. So I'm going to focus there. And in order to do so, learn a little bit more about security in AWS, we're going to be using Cloudgoat, which is a wonderful tool by Rhino Security Labs. And this is a tool that allows us to stand up some vulnerable infrastructure in AWS and run through, pen testing scenarios, or I guess security related scenarios, to try to find misconfigurations, vulnerabilities, security weaknesses in a capture the flag style format. So that's part one of this. We're going to be doing that. This is going to be obviously the first video in this series. You'll see in a moment there are several of these scenarios, and they come with walkthroughs and cheat sheets. And so I'm definitely going to stumble through these. A lot of it is new, and some of the tooling, at least based on what I've seen in like the first scenario prepping for this video, is new. So that's that. We'll talk about that more in a moment. We'll get it running. The other thing I want to do, if you've seen the other series related to learning to code in Python, I was using a plain vanilla Sublime text editor with basically no plugins, just typing every single command, every single character by hand. For this series, we're going to go the opposite direction and lean into sort of the, not the word front line, but like the bleeding edge of what is possible. And this might even be a little bit dated by today's standards, but we'll be using a fully integrated development environment with, IntelliSense, where it can intelligently complete our code. We're going to have an integrated terminal, which you can see here. This application is called VS Code, Visual Studio Code. And it's a wonderful product. We're also going to be using Copilot, which is an artificial intelligence agent style software built on the Claude Sonnet 4.5 language model. And so this thing will allow us just to issue commands in plain old English. Can you hear me? And it's going to respond with what it knows. And obviously, if you're familiar with how these things work, they're going to be trained on a massive amount of data. And Claude in particular is very well trained on technical tasks like programming and this sort of thing. I think it's widely considered to be the best. But like I said, I'm not an expert. However, I will say that as I've further sort of delved into this world, this whole setup of the VS Code, sort of everything integrated into one spot with the help of a Copilot, like GitHub Copilot or Claude, it's immensely powerful. Every day it blows my mind what it can do and the level of complexity of the tasks that it can complete in a short amount of time with unstructured data and just various sources, just like dropping in CSV files and all kinds of stuff. Like I said, I came into a new project recently with a massive code base, and the agent has been very, very helpful in helping me get up to speed on what's going on in the code bases, what the architecture of the various products that the code base is behind, what that architecture is, how the products function, areas to look for from a security or from a testing perspective, just all kinds of stuff. It's unbelievable what these tools can do and how far they've advanced even from like a year ago or a few months ago. So that's that. So we're going to be on the other end of the spectrum using VS Code with Copilot integrated and everything else right here. All the bells and whistles. So let's get back to Cloudgoat. Like I said, we're going to probably stumble through this a bit, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And like I said, it's going to be the start of a new series that we focus on cloud stuff. All right, so what I'm not going to do in this video is go through the Cloudgoat setup. It was multi-step. It was pretty straightforward. Nothing too crazy. It took me about an hour. And the good news, obviously they've got the quick start guides here and various different things that you can use on your own. That's good. A bunch of information about the scenarios, which I've only taken a look at the first one so far, but very good. Contributed by Tyler Ramsby, who I've grown to really like on social media, LinkedIn, YouTube, etc. And so I would recommend his video here. I think this might be the Rhino Security Labs channel, but he has a wonderful video here on how to get your first Cloudgoat scenario up and running. So I definitely recommend doing that. He'll walk you through every minute step from getting the package installed in your Python virtual environment to getting your AWS account set up to creating like lower privileged IAM roles or users so that we're not doing things with the root user. And keep in mind that in your AWS account, however you choose to set it up, we are going to be building vulnerable infrastructure that could theoretically easily be exploited. So don't host anything of value in said AWS account once you do get it set up. All right, so I'm basically through everything I just showed you and everything we just spoke about to the point at the beginning. And we are in the Cloudgoat create Beanstalk secrets. We're going to run this command. Let me jump back into here. And now, if I'm not mistaken, I should have Cloudgoat on my path, which I do. So we can see how we're intended, to run it. So I'm going to say Cloudgoat create and then pass it a scenario. And that's going to be Beanstalk secrets, although I'm curious if it knows my password and no, my like key to who am I? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Let's see. Config. So we got to say Cloudgoat config AWS. What does it do? A configuration file exists. Configure YAML file found existing configuration. You continue to override. Would you like to specify a new AWS setting now? I'm going to say no. All right, I'm going to go ahead and try to create this scenario. When you go through the walkthrough, you're going to create a Cloudgoat user that has the ability to, establish run the Terraform code essentially to build the vulnerable infrastructure in AWS. You need a admin level privileged user to be able to do that, and that's going to be called Cloudgoat. And I think it's in place currently, so I just want to, instead of having to go and try to find those credentials again, I'm going to just give it a try. So Cloudgoat create and then what did we say it was called? Blah, 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 blah. All right, so IP list, yeah, allowing your IP list, IP address, etc. That's all in that hour-long setup video. So be sure to check that out. Okay, so Terraform has successfully initialized. You may now begin working with Terraform, blah, blah, blah. So Terraform is running. Okay. We've got some stuff stood up. Let me just make this a little bit bigger for you. I don't know why that is not catching. Maybe because it's funny. I think because it's like printing to the output that it's having difficulty focusing. Maybe. That's odd though. Nonetheless, let's let it create. And while it does this, in fact, let me go over to this AWS account. So this is my test account. Let's sign in. All right, so I do not want to be signed in with this user. So let's sign out of here and sign in again. Account ID. I am signing in with the root user account, which is not typically, I don't think, what we want to do, but I want to be able to show in the UI what is being built. And, oh, come on. FFWSPB. All right. All right. And here we are back to, or you can see that we're in the AWS Management Console for my account. So let's jump. And I want to see, we'll see the output in a moment of like what exactly was created. So let's just look at that, see if it's done. All right, we've got this thing. Okay, so I'm curious if I can, I don't know what, there we go. Like what in the heck? I actually don't need much of that. Good. I just want to make that more visible. Okay, so it finished. What's the output? It output some information about an initial low privilege credential and a secret key for what appears to be a low privileged user. There, I thought we would be able to see, yes. Okay, I want to just go through this output a little bit and see what was actually created. Looks like there's a lot, so let's see. Okay, so Terraform ran, and Terraform, remember, is a tool that it's an infrastructure as code tool. You write some, I wouldn't say code, but you write some instructions in a particular format, JSON, I want to say. And Terraform will run that and create the actual infrastructure in your cloud environment. So what did it create? Well, it looks like it created an Elastic Beanstalk application app, an Elastic Beanstalk environment. Okay, cool. Access keys for a low privileged user, a secondary key, an instance of an IAM profile, an IAM user, an IAM policy, low privilege policy, blah, blah, blah. Okay, bunch of IAM stuff, roles, users, AWS route. Okay. A routing table. What else? Table association, the final secret. There you go. Hopefully you wouldn't just spoil it with the final flag, but I don't think that really matters. Secret manager, subnet, VPC. So we created a VPC. All right, so I'm going to see. We should be able to see what was created. We go to VPC here in the UI. And let's see, VPC's all regions. And we've got, looks like our newly created VPC here. So yeah, we've got some infrastructure in place. Let's go to IAM and see what users exist. So we go over here and maybe we go to users. We've got an admin user, a low privilege user, secondary user, and the Cloudgoat user, which is the one that Terraform uses to make this infrastructure. All right, what roles? So we've got the Beanstalk EC2 role, service roles. Okay, so we've got various roles. How about policies? We've got policies and a lot of them. I don't know if I can see like which ones customer manage. How about that? Here we go. So the admin policy for the admin user, the low privilege user, and the secondary user policy. Okay, so this is all infrastructure that was set up via this Cloudgoat Beanstalk secrets thing. All right, so let's get into the scenario. All right, so size medium, difficulty moderate. We run it using this thing, okay. Scenario resources, 1 VPC, 1 Elastic Beanstalk environment, 1 IAM low privilege user, secondary user. So first question, and we're not going to use any Google, at least I don't think. What is Elastic Beanstalk in AWS? Let's see what it says. All right, Elastic Beanstalk is a platform as a service that simplifies deploying and managing web applications and services in AWS. Key features: easy deployment, various supported platforms, full control, no additional cost. Components are managed. Common use cases: web applications and APIs, microservices, background workers, quick prototyping, and development environments. It's ideal when you want to focus on code rather than infrastructure management, while still maintaining the flexibility to customize the environment when needed. Okay, so there we go. That's our first interaction with the our friend, the agent, and it told us a little bit about what we need to know for Beanstalk. All right, scenario starts. AWS access key and secret key for the low privileged user. So let's go ahead and I would like to create a new file, and it's going to just be called scenario 1 notes.txt. All right, and I want to just yank this stuff here, which has some credentials that it looks like we're going to need, and just drop them here. Okay. It's funny, this situation with this blue bar, I changed the color of the terminal like right before I started making this video. And prior, you know, when you hover over this border, there's like a thing that appears that you can just move very simply. And I was used to doing that. And now it's like, where is the thing? I think it's only present when the blue bar is there. So that's something I'll have to get used to or change back, but I'm not going to do it right now. All right, so let me get rid of this, and we'll just say credentials for low priv user. All right, so we got that. And then we can just clean this up a little bit. So we got our notes file going, good. All right, so scenario starts, the low privileged user, okay. Retrieve the final flag from AWS Secrets Manager by escalating privileges from a low privileged user to an administrator account, okay. And if you recall, we have a low privileged user, a secondary user, and an admin user. In this scenario, you're provided with low privileged AWS credentials that grant limited access to Elastic Beanstalk. Your task is to enumerate the Elastic Beanstalk environment and discover misconfigured environment variables containing secondary credentials. Using these secondary credentials, you can enumerate IAM permissions to eventually create an access key for an administrator user. With these admin privileges, you retrieve the final flag stored in AWS Secrets Manager. So we've got an exploitation route. We do have a bit of a walkthrough. Whoops. And so that's all very helpful. That's kind of like the big setup. Brute force the user's permissions to discover Beanstalk access. Okay. Enumerate Elastic Beanstalk for credentials. Check IAM permissions of the new credentials. Identify IAM, create access key permissions on the new user. Generate an access key and secret for the admin account. Retrieve the final flag from Secrets Manager. So first things first, we want to, first of all, change, like, who are we currently? What's the equivalent of who am I in AWS Cloud World? Okay, so I think we want to say AWS STS get user. There's some kind of like get identity. Get caller identity. And it'll do my current profile that is currently signed in. So never mind. Unable to configure credentials by running AWS configure. Okay, so I don't have any credentials. We're going to basically log in from the command line. So I think I want to say AWS configure what do I need to do? You know what? That's right. How do I log into AWS command line with known access key and secret key? Another cool thing about this is that you can speak to it. There's a little icon right here, microphone with a extension that you can plug in, I guess, to Visual Studio. That's pretty awesome. So if you don't feel like typing, or for whatever reason you can't, or maybe you, I don't know, for whatever reason you wouldn't be able to type, you can just speak to it, which is pretty neat. All right, so AWS configure, yeah, okay. Setting them credential, blah, blah, blah. AWS configure, okay, what does that do? AWS access key, all right, I was on the right track. Put this down here. And then the secret, this here. Default region, US East 1, I assume. Output format, maybe JSON. Okay, so now, who am I? All right, so I am the low privileged user currently logged in. All right, so going back, we want to brute force the user's permissions to discover Beanstalk access. All right. How do I enumerate my current user's permissions. Because I think I want to look through these and figure out if I have the ability to interact with Beanstalk, right? So let's try this. Get your user information, AWS IAM get user. Let's try that. AWS IAM get dash user. Will it give me the same information? An error occurred. User is not authorized to perform get user on itself. That's kind of bizarre, but okay. All right, so we got my caller identity. Good. AWS IAM list user policies. Username. Is it my user ID that's the username? All right. Well, I'll just ask. I keep getting errors saying I don't have the right to call various IAM actions. Is there a way to enumerate outside of IAM? Interesting. Yes, when you don't have IAM permissions, you can enumerate by trial and error with other AWS services. Use enumerate IAM. This is the brute force approach. So this is a tool that will brute force them all. Manual service enumeration. AWS Beanstalk, AWS Secrets Manager. Okay. CloudTrail. Check CloudTrail if accessible. Let's see if that's just out of curiosity. What does that say? No, can't do that. Use Weird Owl or PackU pen testing tools to do that. Since you're in a Beanstalk secret scenario, focus on Elastic Beanstalk S3. Those are likely where your permissions exist. Okay, thank you. All right, so then, here we go. AWS Elastic Beanstalk, relevant to my scenario. I didn't even notice that. Thank you, agent, my best friend. Literally my best friend this week. All right, so let's see. So now, outside of using a pen testing tool to really do the brute force examination of what permissions I had, well, I shouldn't even say this yet, but I'm not really sure. In order to get to this point without using a tool or without knowing ahead of time that Beanstalk was the thing we were targeting, how would you get here? I mean, you would need to just basically be aware of many services in AWS. So I think, using a tool would probably be the best, a brute force tool like they were describing above. Like enumerate IAM, for example, probably one of the best solutions because there's a bazillion services. So it'd be hard to just randomly land on the one that you would use, but I don't know. All right, so what does this say? Applications, Elastic Beanstalk, okay. Elastic Beanstalk application for insecure secrets scenario. It's got an application name. Resource lifecycle. Okay, so at least I have the ability to like see some information about this Elastic Beanstalk app. It's ARN, like it's a locator inside of AWS. Max count rule, blah, blah, blah. All right, so we did that. Now let's try this one. AWS Beanstalk environment. All right, so more information about the environment, stack name, etc., etc. Okay, good. What we got? What do we have back here? Enumerate Beanstalk for credentials. Okay. So start by using the provided low privilege AWS creds. Verify access with AWS get caller identity. Okay, good. Enumerate Elastic Beanstalk applications and environments using pack-use Elastic Beanstalk enum module. Well, we didn't do that. Identify the EB environment with misconfigured environment variables that store secondary credentials. Okay, so let's instead see how we might do this a little bit more manually. How would I enumerate? Let's see. It appears I have access to information. I'm going to do this with spoken word. It appears I have access to information about the Elastic Beanstalk environment. How would I get information about environment variables? I believe that there are some misconfigured secrets stored in those variables for this environment. All right, what do we got? To get environment variables from the Elastic Beanstalk environment, first get the environment and application names. Okay. We did that a second ago, but I think this is just kind of doubling up on that. Great. All right, now, then retrieve configuration settings, including environment variables. Okay, how do we do this? AWS Elastic Beanstalk, describe configuration settings. All right, sweet. So describe the settings, and we're going to say -- application -name, and that's going to be what? Application name, this guy. All right, and then that / thing, and then we're going to say environment -name, and what is that going to be? Environment ARN. Environment name. Here we go. Okay, let's see what comes back. Looks like some stuff. So, all right, what do we got here? We got a bunch of stuff. Oh, yeah. I see some secrets. Okay. So, all right. Now that's good. We could scroll through there and do all that, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But can you parse that response for anything that looks like a user secret? The user wants me to parse the output from the last command they ran. Yes, I do. Thinking. Beautiful. All right. Isn't this amazing? I found the secrets in the Elastic Beanstalk environment variables. Second user access key. Secondary secret key. Wonderful. So let's go ahead. First of all, we'll go up and drop that into our enumeration notes. Credentials for secondary access user. Okay, so that's good to have. These appear in the namespace, Elastic Beanstalk application environment, and our AWS IAM credentials stored as plaintext environment variables, which is a security misconfiguration. These credentials should be stored in AWS Secrets Manager or a Systems Manager parameter store and referenced securely. You can now use these credentials to escalate privileges by configuring them in your AWS CLI to see what permissions this secondary account has. So it's almost as though the agent is already like aware of this scenario. It kind of feels that way to me. And I, wouldn't be surprised because it's hosted on GitHub, and this thing is probably trained on like all GitHub data. So that's that. Let's go back to the instructions. So what have we done? We've brute forced, quote unquote, our initial user's permissions. We found out that it had Beanstalk access. And again, we probably would have needed to use a brute force tool to do that. Kind of hard to say if I would have figured it out without that or this sheet. Enumerate Elastic Beanstalk for credentials. So we've done that. Check the IAM permissions of the new credentials. All right, so let's do that. So let's, I think, log in with the new credentials, right? Verify who we are, AWS configure. All right, new access key. This new one. And this is kind of basically the equivalent of like switch user in your standard capture the flag Linux scenario thing. US East 1. Yeah, perfect. All right, and then let's run that STS get identity thing to see who we are, just to confirm. We are the secondary user. Wonderful. And now let's try to see if we can enumerate ourselves. Okay, we can. So we do have the ability to call IAM actions. So let's see about maybe listing the user policies. User policies. -- user -name. And I want to say that we want to use the username. That makes sense. User denied when calling list username. The secondary user is not authorized to call list policies. All right, let's see here. Try this one. Oh, brutal. That is not. Oh, that's a secret key. What am I doing? I need a username of the secondary user. Username. So I'm able to list policies. Just save this username. User equals, oh, come on. let me just run this, make sure that it's working. All right, good. So we can list user policies. We cannot list these policies. We can list attached user policies. Can we list groups for users? No. All right, so we only can do this one. Okay, fine. So then let's get a policy. So we're going to say get the policy, and we need this policy ARN. And let's see what it says, if anything. Okay. I've got the policy. Okay, get user for each group. Okay. Get the inline policy document. Let's try that. That takes a policy name. Okay. That user and like what's the policy name? Secondary policy. Okay. And I can't call. All right. What do I need to ask? I now have a secondary user that has access to some IAM actions. How can I generate a full list of IAM permissions that I have? Getting policy diamond, this on a tool, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I've done that just to make sure. Did that. Not authorized. It's just information about the policy. I just did that. Manage policy, just did that. What is the policy name again? I don't have the ability to do that. Pip install the tool on there, so you what to do. No. All right. Use the secondary credentials to enumerate IAM resources and permissions. No, that's not what I want. All right, let's use the cheat sheet. Identify and blah, blah, blah. Use the secondary credentials to enumerate IAM resources and permissions. All right, how do we do that? Verify your access. Okay. Enumerating Beanstalk. Checking permissions. Run IAM brute force permissions. Next, access the things. switch to the, okay, so this is running PackU brute force tools. Okay, fine. Now with the secondary, this will display additional IAM permissions, including the ability to create an access key for others. All right, well, okay, I can try to run that thing, but it'd be nicer to not use a tool. Is this really how this works? So you just have to brute force every single available thing? Let me ask, how would I know if my user had the ability to create access keys for other users? Policy simulator, enumerate. Check your policy documents for. Okay, let's do this. Let's have it run this and see what it comes up with. Okay. All right. Oh, $. What? ZSH command not found. Oh, and here's what you were looking for. Okay, thank you. All right. So inline policy and look for create access key. Okay. What's the policy name? I don't think I have the ability to do this. Policy name. Okay, so I just wouldn't ever know. What the heck? Use IAM policy simulator. Okay. What does that do? All right, I've got my user, ARN. Okay. User ARN. Good. All right, now let's just simulate principal policy. What does this do? Error occurred when client blah, blah, blah. It's not performed to perform simulation policy, etc. Okay. This will turn whether action. Well, no, it doesn't if I don't have the ability to call that action. Try listing existing keys. No, that's kind of silly though. I don't like this. I am able to list user keys though. Well, at least the user ID. I'm able to list users. Okay, great. Actually attempt, if you get a dyno, blah, 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 use the enumerate IAM, whatever. Okay, well, I guess in real life, if this were a real pen test, we would run PackU or a tool like it to brute force attempt at permissions, whatever the best way to say that is. So, do I have PackU here? That's funny that I did that. What do I have to do? How do I source a venv environment in Python? I installed PackU in this environment. I think it's in there, so I need to activate it. And VM, that stands for virtual environment. I am not super fluent in Python, despite the other playlists we have going on this channel. And I've worked for many years in the Ruby world, so this new project I'm on is all Python. And so there's been some like muscle memory I've had to start to build up to get used to some things, and VM is one of them. So I can never remember how to source the virtual environment and get it started. Let me see if I have this in here. I do. Okay. We're going to do a new session. You can see some old sessions were in there. What would you like to name this session? We'll call this Beanstalk. All right, no keys set. Let me make this actually readable. All right, so this is a tool for, pen testing, AWS environments. And this is my environment. I give myself permission to do this. At least I think that's how it should work in this case. And I think we want to set keys and then run a particular command. So let's say set dash keys. Oh, and there's no, is it underscore? Set underscore keys. All right, key alias, we're going to say secondary. Access key is going to be the secondary user's access key. And the secret for the secondary user. Session time none, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we're in Beanstalk secondary. What did it say? We're going to run IAM enum permissions for the secondary. Okay, that was really fast. So 14 unconfirmed permissions for that user. I guess, who am I? Who am I? Okay, so I am the secondary user. I don't have a role. I've got an account user. I'm not in any groups. I have two policies. This one and this one. Oh, I just have one policy with a name and an ARN. Okay. Access key, that's mine. Secret, okay, good. Permissions. This one seems important. I have the ability to create an access key on any resource, list policy on any resource, get role policy, get policy, list policy versions, list attached role policies, etc., etc., etc. I have all this stuff. List users, get users. All right. So I think we would need to recognize how that that this one was important. And so what it seems to suggest is that if, as a lower privileged user, I have the ability to create an access key for another user, and let's say that other user is an admin user, then it would seem that I could log in as that admin user once I created the key for that individual. So notice that the create access key is confirmed as a viable escalation vector. Now execute the method to target the administrator user. So run IAM user methods create access key. Follow the prompts to select the admin user. PackU will then generate a new access key for the admin user and display the credentials. Okay, this is pretty cool. So let's do that. Although I don't see anything about admin, but let me see. Run IAM privesc scan user methods create access key. Is there a specific user you want to target? They must not already have two sets of access keys for their user. Enter their name now, or just hit enter to enumerate users and view a list of options. Let's just do that. Data IAM user run. Sure. Okay, so we've got them. Choose an option. They found 4 users, and we want option 1, the admin user, to create credentials for that person. Okay, so good. Let's take this stuff and add it to our notes. So we've got admin credentials, and we're going to take our access key and our secret. Good. Privilege escalation was possible. And now let's AWS configure. I thought it would work like that. I guess not. All right, AWS access key is going to be our admin access key. And then that admin's secret generated by the lower privileged secondary user. US East 1, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so then we'll say no. I just want to get back to this so I can figure out who we are. Okay, good. So what's next? Beanstalk secrets. Check the permissions of the new credentials. Yes. Identify IAM create access key permissions on the new user. Just did that. Generate an access key and secret for the admin account. Yes. Retrieve the final flag from the secrets manager. Okay, so how on earth? Let's ask. I've found, let's speak it into existence. I have found credentials for the admin user and have logged into the AWS CLI with that user. How can I use this user's privileges to access AWS Secrets Manager? There are secrets in there that I'm looking for. Submit. No. I need to figure out how to submit using my voice. Let's see what it says. Okay. AWS Secrets Manager, list secrets. I'm choking. All right, let's do it. So make this bigger. As I get more and more familiar with VS Code, I promise I won't have to be doing all this resizing and all this stuff all the time. I think there's probably got to be like key combinations to focus on a window and resize it and bring it to the forefront, etc. I'm just not there yet. AWS Secrets Manager, list secrets. As the admin user. All right, well, here it is. We've got a secret list. Secret list. The name of the secret is the final flag, although that's not the content of the secret. I'm not necessarily sure. Yeah, I think that's just the name. Okay, so let's get the specific secret's value. That's what I want to do. So we were jumping the gun. I was jumping the gun. So then the secret ID, give it the secret name or the secret ARN. So let's try it by the name. And we got it. So I don't think it's spoiling anything because you don't like submit these anywhere. But I guess maybe in future videos, I'll give like a warning that I'm going to display this. But that, just going back here, retrieve the final flag from the secrets, blah, blah, blah. Use the admin privileges to retrieve the final flag. So we did it. That was the first scenario of the Cloudgoat series. This is the first video in a series on cloud security that we'll be going through together in preparation for our next certification adventure, which is the AWS security specialization. I hope you all enjoyed this, a different view into kind of what's possible. No Google, just the Copilot and the agent. And I speak from experience when I say that, this thing can review the code you're writing, help you generate tests, like just all kinds of stuff. I'm sure most people watching this are aware of these capabilities already, but like I said, every day I'm shocked at what it's capable of. And in the capture the flag style stuff, it's really nice to have at our side when we run into just things we don't know how to do or whatever. It's been very helpful. So hope you all enjoyed. Have a great rest of the work week. Thanks for following along on this channel and this video. and I'll see you all on the next one. Okay, bye.